Welcome back, everybody, to the Pipe Dreams Ramda Deep Dive Season 2, the continuation of an unfinished previous series by someone else. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check it out. It's old, um, but still completely relevant. So we've just got one more function in the Fs from pairs, and it's pretty simple. Um, let's just dig right in, right? Uh, from pairs, it creates a new object from a list of key value pairs. Pretty simple. If a key appears in multiple pairs, the rightmost pair is included in the object. Okay, what does that mean? So if a key appears in multiple pairs, yeah, um, you can only have one, like for example, in this object here, this would make sense, right? You know, blah, blah, blah. I guess in this case, in fact, I'm going to just find out if I guess I got to log it or something. Yeah, let me log the object. Yeah, so it's just like the last one wins. First is here, and that's another quirky thing I think in JavaScript. Like even VS Code should put a little red squiggly under here, even though it's not TypeScript. And you can use TypeScript with Ramda. They do provide types. But yeah, so that's how that works. If we look at the type signature, it's just a list of lists. uh, I think it would be better to say an array of pairs, a key value pair, and then it just transforms that into an object where the first item in the pair is the key and the second one is the value, right? So let's make a follow convention and say this is x's. So that's the outer one. And then we add the key value pair, and we'll just say, um, well, see, we don't have to do strings. So let's say true 32, false. Well, no, we'll say false 32 because we all know that 42 is true, right? And then Bob is, you know, or I mean, not is. I'm just saying these are pairs, right? It's just like tuples or tuples or pairs or whatever you want to call them, non-named values. But it's really the same thing as like this, two things. So this is gonna be the key and this is gonna be the value. Uh, so we can just do r dot from pairs and then say, well, it just takes one thing, right? It takes that list. So the x is, and then we get back an object, right? So you see how that works? False 32. So now it's key value pair or key value, key value, key value. Um, yeah, so it's useful. I mean, you're going to run into times where you get arrays and you want them to be objects, and vice versa, objects that you want to be arrays. And that's what two pairs does. So we'll look at that in a second. But this one is so easy, you could probably just make it yourself. Const from pairs, and I mean, just follow the type signature. It would take and yeah, it would take the x's. We don't need that, and then we're going to return. Since we're returning an object, I'm going to have to wrap it in parentheses. And oh, but we would have to map, right? Okay, so maybe it's not as easy as I thought, but not too hard. So we're gonna map, and we're gonna take. I'm just gonna do it longhand first. Um, so it's an array of an array. So our callback function would take each one at a time. It would take an array, which would be like a key value pair, or not key value pair, but a pair, an array with two items in it. So we could destructure that and say, wait, what am I doing? Yeah, it's an array. So key and value, and then we're going to return an object like that. But and actually, we can do a point free because we would just need to pass x's like that. So let's just do it point free. I think this is right. We're going to see. Yeah. So here we can just we'll leave this one, and I'll do this one, the one I made. Okay. Well, it didn't blow up, but it's not right. I think it's something about the destructuring. Do I need to wrap this in a? I bet I do. Oh yeah, yeah, because that thought it was the body of the function. Yeah, there we go. Uh, but it didn't keep the key right. It's not showing the key, but because of that, because I mean, I guess the key has to be an object. So maybe this isn't so simple to do. I don't really know how to do it elsewise. I'm turning an object. It's one of those things where you have to put it into square braces. I think that might be it. Yeah, I've never really, just never done this very much. I mean, I don't do this. I don't need to make objects out of pairs very much, but I just remember from like early tutorials, that's something you have to do. It's just syntactic JavaScript stuff. But anyway, I mean, we just made the same function ourselves, and it wasn't that difficult. We use map and make our own custom callback function, but obviously this is much more straightforward. So yeah, see if there's any good tidbits here. An array of two element arrays, that's probably, or a pair. That will be the keys and values, the output object, and returns the object made by pairing up keys and values. Cool. Let's look at two pairs because it's the opposite, right? Um, so if you like keep that signature in your mind for a second, actually it looks a little different because it's specifying that you're going to pass in a object, and because it's an object, the keys are going to be a string. You don't have any choice, but the value could be anything, and then it's going to return a list of key value pairs, the same thing. So basically just like what we looked at. So if I did that, and then I do log r dot two pairs and pass in our x's. No, pass in our object. It takes an object. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so the first one we get, we're passing in an array and we're getting back an object. The next one we're passing in an object and we're getting back an array of pairs, an array of arrays. And then it skips if they have, I forgot to take the first name out at the end here, but if you have an object where you duplicate the keys, then it's going to use the last one. This one's essentially overriding this one. But I'm going to remove this because might just be handy to have these three pieces of data ready to use for future examples. Um, and then the last one that we'll look at, I mean, it says, see also from pairs. This is what we just looked at. And we'll get to keys and values later. I don't want to sidetrack off of a sidetrack. I just want to stay one level um, deep, if you know what I mean. But let's look at pair because it's very simple. It takes two arguments, the first and the second, and returns a pair. Like it takes two individual things and just groups them together. It's a lot like call, I think. Yeah, apply takes an array of arguments, and call takes just a variadic amount of arguments. And so this is kind of like passing in a variadic amount of arguments and grouping them together, or not a variadic. I made specifically two and returns a pair. But anyway, it's so easy. I'm gonna attempt to make my own real quick. It takes a x, returns a function, takes a y, and then it's going to return an array x, y, like that, a pair. Just groups them together like a little marriage counselor or something, or yeah, whatever it is I'm trying to think of. So let's see if that works. Log pair and pass its first argument yo, and the second argument mama, and then we get back an array of your mama, right? And then I can't pass both of these arguments at one time because um, I curried this function as I made it. But if we use Ramda's pair, it lets me do it both ways. So first, oh, uh, right, so we get the same thing using Ramda's version, but we can also pass it at one time, get the same thing, and then if we passed another argument to it, it probably just completely ignores it, and it does. So, but it doesn't throw an error. Yeah, and with that said, we have now completed the Fs. So that's a milestone for me as I decided to continue with this series. Uh, the last one Chris did was filter, and so I picked up after that. And I think this is 10. So I'm going to be at this for a while, and I hope you check in and check out some of the videos. So thanks for spending your time with me, and tell a friend. And I will see you in the next video when we look at group by. Later.